It's Andy and Nora's podcast.
Hey, Nora.
Hey, Sandy.
How are you doing as we enter into the late summer period?
It's the dog days. I can't believe it's already the dog days of summer. Now,
I know.
Sandy, do you have like to-do lists? Is this one of the things you do to arrange your work?
I love to-do lists. I'm a to-do lists person, and I love tactile to-do lists. So I'm like an old school, have a notepad to-do list person.
I thought you were going to say that like you're model it out in plasticine. And you're like, this is me, going to do this thing or on this Zoom in plasticine.
Not that tactile, but there is some ripping sometimes and folding, like that kind of tactile.
Yeah, I love that. I am also a to-do list person, and I have to say that the to-do list that I set myself up for the beginning of the summer, it's pretty much like 95% not done.
That is, I want to say excellent, but I'm not going to say excellent because it's not excellent. But have you broken your to-do list down into smaller to-do lists, and have you gotten some of those to-do lists done?
No. Now I should say, like, my to-do list it doesn't ever include any of the smaller stuff. Like the things that have to get done regularly, the things that I have to stay on top of, those are always kind of on my radar. And unless I'm going to forget about them, they don't go on my to-do list. This was my lofty summer goals list. And so, no, there's nothing I can break down. It's like, in one case, I'm waiting for Freedom of Information documents from the RCMP. In another case, I just have to do it, but it's not nothing. I have to give myself like several hours to do it. So all of this is to say, you're right to say that it's kind of a congratulatory thing. It means that I've had a pretty relaxing summer.
I mean, says the person who completed a book. I mean, I feel like you can still feel quite accomplished, even if your to-do list still needs some working on.
Oh, yeah. And actually, like, the biggest thing on my to-do list was this essay that I just wrote on Substack, and I don't know if you saw it, but that draws parallels between how the Italians in Canada basically their institutions turned into fascist supporting things, and what kind of parallels I see with that and Jewish institutions today in terms of their support for Israel. And so I'm very, very, very happy that I wrote that essay. It was something that has been on my mind for 6 months, and it felt like a giant relief to have that published and in the world. And so I am absolutely loving that there's still so much to do on my list, but that I have managed to knock off a few.
Yeah, I did see that you published that. I haven't read it yet, but I've been excited to read it since you told me about it. So I'm looking forward to that being my read. I will say that I'm pretty quick with my to-do lists. Like I get to rip off a page of my notebook probably twice a week with my to-do lists. I'm like, let's go through these things. Oh yeah. But I did have a physical to-do list for like the first time this year, where I wanted to accomplish some goals in capoeira. One of which was just to have a healthy shoulder, because my shoulder's been messed up for a really long time. And I will say that I accomplished most of that to-do list, which was healthy shoulder, and to be able to do a piao jamao, which is like a weird cartwheel, and to do bridges again successfully, while in motion. So I can do a bridge like I'm a kid. It's great.
Wow. Okay, that is very cool. Mm-hmm. We should compare notes on the physio, the shoulder physio, because I also have shoulder stuff, but maybe we can do that off the air.
Yeah, we can do that off the air. But I'm really grateful that my shoulder is back, because it is tough to have shoulder issues, man. It is really, really tough. You need that for a lot. And so I'm so grateful to have worked that out. And I'm also grateful for the people who helped make this podcast happen. Do we have some folks to thank, Nora?
We do. Thank you so much to everybody that shared last week's episode. We got a ton of feedback on it as well. So if you haven't had a chance to check out that episode, you really should. It's all about these studies into campus antisemitism. And actually, I want to come back to that in a sec. But before I do, I want to thank financial supporters Eric and Caitlin this week. Thank you so much for your support. And Sandy, since we recorded last week, another report has come out about anti-Semitism on campus, and this time it's at Toronto Metropolitan University, TMU, or as I like to call it, Too Much University.
Your alma mater.
My alma mater. Did you see anything about this report?
I did not see it at all.
So I haven't read the full report. It's kind of broken into two major sections. And so I've read the first one, which seems like it's longer than an executive summary, but it's like basically the summary of it. And there's a couple of things that stood out for me that I think are really important to note. The two acts of anti-Semitism.
Can I ask something before you keep going? Who put it out? Was it TMU itself? Was it a project of like some research center? Was it the students? Like, who put out the report at TMU?
I am not sure how the report came out, to be honest. It was a report that was done. It's an external review, and it was done by the Honorable Mary Lou Benotto and Margot Finley. See, there's the Italians again. The Italians are always playing cover for fascism. External report by a former judge. And this judge decided to anchor her analysis about campus anti-Semitism in two events. One was a protest against Guy Smiley, the federal art dealing AI trading minister, Evan Solomon, protesting the federal government's, support of Israel. Okay. And the second was an off-campus protest of students who tried to disrupt and who did, successfully to some extent, disrupt an off-campus meeting with IDF soldiers. Literal IDF soldiers, who then, one of them, allegedly, as we've seen reported by The Grind, this is now under... the guy's suing The Grind over this, but you can see a video where it appears that he assaults individuals and breaks the glass of a window. I'm not saying that happened because it's a video. It's hard to see, but you can check it out for yourself if you want to see. And of all of the recommendations, Benotto suggests that the university adopt the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, which conflates Jews with Israel and the grievous, disgusting acts of the state of Israel with the Jewish community worldwide.
That's the recommendation. Funny how that works.
Mm-hmm.
We think that that's going to solve the anti-Semitism issues.
Yep. So for basically an argument against this report as well, even though we hadn't read it, check out last week's episode at sandynora.com, and you can hear what we thought about it then if you haven't listened to it already. But I'm looking at the stats. I know everybody listening to this right now did listen to last week's episode. You folks are very consistent.
Okay, so a few things to discuss this. Well, we're going to focus on it's kind of like the big news in culture this week, which is Dr. Jason Arday, who was hounded by the UK media for reasons we'll get into, and then subsequently was found dead, and the police are saying that it was not suspicious. But before we get into that, I did want to talk very briefly about this other big piece of culture news, which was AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, having this interview where it's kind of like one of those interviews that are signaling that she is interested in running for the presidency of the United States in the future, and being asked about the Democratic Socialists of America candidates that are making waves across the United States in primaries right now. And being asked about some of the takes that some of those candidates have had, including defunding the police abolition, thoughts about colonialism and Thanksgiving, and so on. And she responded to say that she's like, like one of my colleagues said, woke one was crazy. Did you see this?
You are actually just explaining to me what the hell woke one is, because all I've seen is memes about woke one. I'm like, what the hell is this? So I did not know that that's the source. That's an interesting thing to say about something that arguably got her elected.
Exactly. That was like exactly my take. I was like, oh, it's so interesting how often political actors will like take these movements, Black movements, Indigenous movements especially, and then like throw them out once they've accomplished like what they need from them. But like, if you're a journalist and someone says that, like, what would be your next question? What would your next question be? You are a journalist.
Well, I would have asked, I mean, I would have identified that got her elected, but I think I probably would have asked her for a definition of what woke one is.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Like the next obvious question for anyone who isn't like shilling for like liberalism and order or whatever, or who doesn't discount these movements out of hand, right, would be, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, which part was quote unquote crazy? Is it the fact that like people were protesting against Black people being systematically killed by the police? Is that the crazy part? Is it the part that it continues to be true that across the United States, this is the state that pays the most into policing and prisons and imprisons the most people around the world? Is it crazy to say that maybe 50 to 75% of our budgets shouldn't be going to state policing when we can't afford to teach our children and like fix our roads? Is that the crazy part? Was the crazy part the movement against sexual violence against women? Was it the stop colonialism piece and the killing, the systematic killing of and missing and murdered Black and Indigenous people across the United States? Like, is that which part? Like, she should be forced to explain what she's talking about. And this is not just an issue with her, which is why I bring it up. I mean, this is an issue all over the place. There's this idea that listening to pundits talk more recently, that like 2020 was nuts in some way. And because we have like this like liberal media class that really does just work to maintain order and to maintain a certain type of governance and to maintain a certain type of society, it's fine to just accept that whatever happened in 2020 was like, whoa, wild, out of this world, outrageous. And those people don't feel like they need to justify why. And so what does that do? It really does place us back in this position. It's like, the movement, the perennial movement issue of like taking 2 steps forward and then taking 1 step back. There's still the win of 2020 of like making people understand like what is happening. The fact that people even know how much budgets are being allocated to policing and how disproportionately certain communities are targeted and like what like the ineffectiveness of policing and so on. Like those things you can't take away from people. But this idea that any attempt to address these issues is quote unquote crazy, or to like get to the root of these issues is quote unquote crazy, like should be challenged. And the fact that journalists don't challenge this and just see it as like this obvious thing that 2020 was quote unquote nuts is just a signal that our journalism is, 1, super biased, and 2, is here to protect and maintain society as it is.
Okay, but wasn't like 2020 woke too?
I mean, listen, people using woke to describe like a series of movements against power is continues to be very, very annoying to me.
Yeah.
It's very, very annoying because, the word means something else. And it being taken out of context like this, it just does something to my brain, which is like, why do people not understand language? But anyway, here we are. But yes, you're correct. I think in the way that those people are using it, technically, it would be woke too.
Well, it's kind of too bad that we're not spending more time talking about this today, because I would have called this episode Air Woke 1. But I think that the point is made. And I think you're right. I mean, this is all just internet talk, right? It just completely sanitizes the real grassroots character of these movements, which is the only part of the movement that matters, really. Like, when you come down to it, it's about the community building. It's about the resistance. And if anybody thinks that 2020 wasn't possible without 2016, or that 2026 and 2025 resistance against ICE was possible without 2020, then they have no idea how things work. Like, if you're going to smear past movements as being like dismissible or crazy or whatever, it's like you don't have people fighting back against ICE without the massive groundswell against the police from 2020. And you don't have that without the foundation of Black Lives Matter in 2016. Like, I mean, that's how the world works. And so that's disappointing. AOC sucks. I have to say, all I've seen about her, though, is this whole egg freezing thing, which is also like, who cares? Why do we have to see her giving her injections? Maybe I should start showing all the injections that I get and how fun they are to try to prolong my life. Anyway.
Yeah, internet culture is very, very strange. But yeah, you're totally right. All the DSA candidates, I mean, who are doing well right now are doing well as a result of 2020, not because 2020 was some sort of aberration. So,
Yep.
And even though that she wouldn't call herself a DSA candidate, of course, like the whole squad thing, that came from movements like Black Lives Matter, like movements for Palestinian justice and against Islamophobia, and so on. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's talk about the main topic, which is a difficult topic to talk about. I think maybe we should start off by that. We are going to be talking about suicide, and we're going to be talking about the process that the far right has consistently engaged in for, I think we can say, 2026, 2016? Yeah, I would say probably a decade and a half. In trying to marshal so much heat on a single person online that person sees no way else out of their life than to end their life.
Oh my gosh, it's so tragic. And the interesting thing about Nora and I talking about this is that Nora and I ourselves have been targets of campaigns to try to delegitimize us or make us seem like people that we're not online, in not at all to the level of what Dr. Jason Arday experienced, but at a level that no one should have to experience. I think what's really difficult to put into words or to describe is the psychological terror that people making up a version of you that isn't you, that a lot of people start to understand as you,
yes.
Like what that does. It's a very weird thing to all of a sudden be referred to as someone you don't recognize and be told that person is you. It does something weird to your brain. And it is like a form of torture, I think. Like it's very, very disorienting, and there's nothing real to grab hold of to say, that's not me, because any amount of you saying that does literally nothing. It's like you don't matter in the construction of yourself. It's a very weird thing. And what I think that people don't necessarily understand is that the right wing who uses this type of hounding to try to destroy people or to make points or to try to change the way our culture is organized, they know this. They know that it's psychological terror, and they love it. Mm-hmm. They love it. They know that the outcome could be death. They know that they are driving people to a kind of a psychological place that is very, very difficult to endure. They know they're doing that. They're very aware of it. And that is the point, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's back up. In case you haven't seen the news, though I can't imagine you haven't, Dr. Jason Arday was the youngest ever Black professor at Cambridge University in the UK. And he faced accusations of plagiarism. Now, I just want to read something from the Good Law Project, which has a petition demanding a public inquiry into what happened, specifically on the question of plagiarism. This is what they write. Dr. Arday was a relatively obscure figure outside of academia. Far more consequential figures in whom there was a profound public interest, like Rachel Reeves and Jonathan Reynolds, faced plausible allegations embellishing their CVs or plagiarism. I mean, of course, this is Britain. I don't actually know who either of those people are, and maybe you don't either. When the academic professor George Holmes, not merely a professor but vice chancellor, was implicated in a fraud scandal, the story was barely covered. So too, when William O'Reilly, another professor at the University of Cambridge, faced plausible allegations of plagiarizing student essays. And this is why I want to read it, when Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, faced plagiarism allegations, they also received a tiny fraction of the coverage given to Dr. Arday. And so these allegations are made, and what follows is an unbelievable torrent of hatred towards him. Unbelievable torrent of hatred. And it's a globalized, mobilized hatred. It seemed to be basically anywhere in the Anglosphere, so any countries that speak English online had some kind of pushing towards, get this guy fired, ruin this guy's life, he's a fraud, blah, blah, blah. And in that campaign, this goes back to what you said at the start, there was clearly, and there tends to be clearly in similar campaigns, the desire to try and force someone to harm themselves. And I think that you starting off this conversation by talking about what it's like to have this out-of-body experience with someone who is not you and who the internet tells the world is you can create extreme psychological distress. And people who engage in these harassment campaigns know that, they like that, and they do want to cause maximum harm. And if that maximum harm is then a harm that is that has no, perpetrators because the person does it to themselves, then it's even better. Then they've won. And I think it's really important that we talk about this campaign against Dr. Arday in these terms, because this is a tactic that has been employed for more than a decade online. And we see it once again being employed, and in this situation, employed to the extent that he actually does and ends up taking his own life. And the elements of race are primordial in this case. And I think that reminding ourselves that someone like Prime Minister Mark Carney, accused of plagiarizing, I think he was accused of plagiarizing his own thesis, although I forget if it was his thesis or if it was in his book Values, it doesn't matter. It's funny because it's ultimately a claim that doesn't really matter culturally when we're all being forced to use AI, the plagiarism machine. And yet it's enough for the mob, in this case, the far right mob, to actually murder someone.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like Mark Carney is far more of a public interest, okay, than Dr. Jason Arday. So that should be a big story, and in some way, in comparison, and it's in some way not. I don't think it should be a big story at all. It's like, okay, there's a way to deal with these sorts of things, plagiarism in the academic sphere, whatever. Other people have talked about that. The thing that's like, there's like a number of things that are interesting about a story like this that people need to understand and to take away. The anti-Blackness of it all is paramount, right? Because this story, so far as I understand, because, look, I didn't follow it super closely while it was happening before he took his life, because I could tell what was happening. I recognized it. I was like, this is nonsense, and lending credence to it is it's doing more damage. So I was just like I was like, I'm not going to read all of these terrible stories that are coming out about how this person doesn't deserve this, that, or the other. But from what I understand is that this is first like published in the Washington Free Beacon, which is, this has happened before. I've seen this happen before to other people. A story published in this very, very right-wing rag that is then picked up by other right-wing rags like the Daily Mail and so on, and then is ultimately picked up by mainstream media like The Guardian and so on. And it's like that pipeline, that needs to be questioned, the way that mainstream media will take something that's like growing in interest from right-wing sources and then just parrot it as though it's true. The other thing is, it's like, what was the source? One of the major sources was this guy. I don't remember his first name. His last name is Kofnas, this like white supremacist guy who like really deeply believes in eugenics, who wanted to, and he is a proponent of mismatch theory, which I unfortunately know way too much about, because one of the guys who like created it is at my alma mater, UCLA, in the law school. And this mismatch theory is this idea that equity programs create a mismatch between the Black people who get in to post-secondary education and their ability to actually perform in educational spaces. There's this mismatch.
Wow.
And yes, and it creates like a psychological problem for those Black people. It's bad for them, but it's also like bad for everybody else because it degrades education. Okay. So like that's the idea. And this guy is like a proponent of mismatch theory, and he wants to be able to do a post-secondary scholarship in eugenics because he believes in it. Like that's where a lot of this sourcing is coming from. And so why is this so important for him to latch on to Jason Arday is because Jason Arday is talented and exceptional in the position that he gets. And so it becomes really important to say he can't be there if it were not for some sort of leg up that he's getting that is unjust and that shouldn't be happening at a school like Cambridge, and therefore white people are smarter and Black people should not be in school, right? Like that is like the point of this. And if journalists like don't understand that that's what they are contributing to when they are picking up these sorts of stories from the right wing, they better become hip to the game. Like they better become aware that that's what's happening. And then, but even further than that, right? Like there's all of this stuff that's out there that's like, okay, so he plagiarized, and it looks like he was a fabulist, like he lied about some things, like he didn't deserve to die. But like looking at the reports, I am consistently like surprised by how easy it is for people to believe that Black people are lying when like some of the things that like I'm reading that he's apparently lied about don't seem like one of the big claims that people are like, Man, what a fabulist, is that he raised £5 million over 20 years for 80 charities. That's not
people do that.
hard. Like, I'm just like,
No.
I know people who've raised more in less time. Like, why would that be an unreasonable thing? Like, there's a whole Guardian article about how the offer that he got for his memoir, apparently he's said that it was $1.4 million. And they're like, for someone of his stature, the interest in his story, he shouldn't get more than £10,000. And it's like, sorry, this is in the Guardian. Where are they getting that from? Where are they getting, like, there's no sourcing as to say, like, this is how book deals are made. And let me tell you that that's not true. That's not true. £10,000. My book deals were way more than that. And this guy has way more accomplishments than me. Like, he held the torch during the London Olympics. And these book deals are typically over a period of years. So it's like something to be paid out over 4, 5, maybe 6 years. And they're paid out in installments. So we're talking about someone's like payments, like what they are owed over time, right? And I'm like, how could the Guardian publish something so outrageous? Like, I don't understand. And like something about his running and how he was running with a fractured leg. And actually, like, I think the way that they termed it, like, I don't know the truth of these stories, but it's just like, actually, marathon runners run with hairline fractures all the time. Like, I'm just like reading these things like, how are people just like concluding that these are all lies like this? It's just, it's very, very shocking to see how willing people are to just discount, like, how anti-Blackness insidiously works in our society. Like, people are just so willing to discount this stuff and like to not even demand that the sources really be provided like they would have to be in any other story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or well, actually, really, none of this would be scrutinized if he had not been Black.
Exactly.
You know, like, like ultimately, it doesn't even need these are non-stories. And this goes back to what you were saying, that there is this tactic on the right to invent a character that is despicable and that is loathsome. And when it comes to anti-Black racism, it feeds off of stereotypes. It feeds off of what already common white supremacist logic would dictate or say, right? And so this is why someone like Mark Carney has, like, you know, his plagiarism is like a barely a blip within the news cycle versus, oh, here we found the thing to take this guy down. And this has been something that has really scared me for a very long time. I know it scared you for a very long time because, and this is also why when I say to people, it's like, never apologize online. Like, it really isn't worth it. It doesn't actually matter because these are not real spaces. And you might be apologizing to people who you respect and who you maybe even know, but someone else watching will take that into being something that can be weaponized against you. Like the fact that any single thing that can be turned into a story about you can then be used to actually cause you harm is something that's been practiced online for a long time, for more than a decade, against many, many, many people. And as you say, like, journalists are completely complicit in it. There's no critical thinking about this stuff. And even the way that you describe something from far right, from extreme far right to mainstream far right to mainstream, and then that's the construction of a controversy. I mean, that describes to a T what I went through with the Humboldt stuff, like literally to a T. And to see to see the construction of an individual that is fake, that doesn't exist, that has never existed, that doesn't even kind of exist, and then that construction be used as a punching bag to have people rip apart the construction and all of these stories. Like the truth actually doesn't matter at all. And we live in realities where there's truth, like a very big fuzzy thing of truth. But what truth is very malleable, is very contextual, can change from thing to thing to thing. You know, this is a very unrelated example, but I'm thinking about the fact that one of my favorite writers wrote a feature for a magazine about one of my favorite actors, and it was full of corrections because the writer's a writer. She was writing an interesting story and got some details wrong. And at the end of the day, in my opinion as a writer, I mean, that's fine because it was about a good story and it was a great story and it's magazine writing. So you have to be a bit more careful with facts, of course. But truth, it's like there's always like a construction of a truth, and you have to say, why are you making that be the construction of this truth or this reality? And it's a very violent tool that exists to maintain white supremacy, to maintain anti-Black racism, to maintain imperialism and colonialism and all of the harmful structures that exist across all of our societies. And everything then is in place to really go after people when, I mean, the people that call the shots decide to go after people. So to make that very concrete, in Canada, when it was me, it was when the Toronto Sun decided, you know what, the Toronto Sun, the Conservative Party of Canada, their leadership, we're going to go after Nora Loretto. We're going to make this a thing. And it's still something I have to deal with today. I mean, how many, like 8 years later, 9 years later? It's pretty powerful. And as you say, like there's just no critical understanding of how these processes work. And it's kind of like very nuts that there doesn't exist anything, because this keeps happening and it is a pattern and it is necessary for us to understand, because ultimately it's about freedom, security, and free speech. And these are all really important things that everyone within a democratic society should have the right to express and to have access to.
Mm-hmm. It's like, gosh, it's very, very like, it is such an important tool of the right, as you say. And that makes it more important for all of us to understand when it's happening. I really appreciate, in this tragedy, in the aftermath of this tragedy, of Dr. Arday. Like there's no confirmation that he took his life, but I mean, there's like, it's highly suggested that yes, he did. It's like, it's really great to see that some people have an understanding of what was happening, but I can't tell you how important it is to like try to if you engage online during why and see that that's something that's happening, how important it is to try to interject or to provide support if you know those people, or even if you don't, because there's something about like recognizing that that's what's happened after the fact. Like, I don't know why we struggle to recognize that it's happening while it's happening. You know what I mean? Like I think it's why do we have to wait for the ultimate consequence to say this is some bullshit, like gosh. And like, Nora and I are just speculating about this stuff. Like I say, like we had some experience with it. I was sued when I was from the University of Toronto Students Union, and there was some press around it saying that I had stolen this money and that there was all of this. And I've never spoken about it because I was like not allowed to, but I'm kind of like, don't care anymore. I don't know. But it's like, the stuff that people felt really comfortable reporting out in the news, it was really weird to see around the same time that had happened to me, right? Like there was this idea that I had lied about working an insane amount of overtime, despite the fact that I hadn't seen my family at like statutory holidays for years. You know what I mean? It's like outrageous.
Well, and also I worked with you then. So
yeah, I was like
absolutely can co-sign. You were
consistently leaving my office at 2 a.m. and the funny thing was that these people knew it. Like one of the weird things that was like that I read that people thought Jason Arday was lying about, or continue to think that he's lying about, is that he was once sent a severed pig's head, which I was like, God, that's so weird. Like a severed pig's head was sent to my office by, I believe, the people who ended up suing me. You know, like I was like, it's weird that people think that that's not possible. Like it's very possible, especially at a school like Cambridge, schools like the University of Toronto, schools like, you know, Princeton or whatever. Like there's a whole television show they made out of it, like Dear White People. Like this is a thing that happens, right? And you know, anyway, these people were very aware of how much I was working, because they would sometimes come to my office at like 1 a.m. Like I know who these people are. Anyway, we get to a point in the case where I got to see the discovery. And in some of that discovery were some of the very people who were suing me talking about how, like, whether all of the pushing they were doing of me would lead me to kill myself. Like that was part of it. It was part of it.
Wow.
And like, I just like can't tell you, like, as you say, it still affects me, or it still affects me to this day. There was, I remember in like, pre-2020, I was recruited for some sort of in residency position, writing position, that I did ultimately end up getting, but they paused the recruitment because they needed to like investigate this thing that I was never, it was never a criminal issue, which is, like if you steal money, typically, especially if you're like a black activist who's opposing the police quite publicly, like they'll want to take you out criminally for it. But nope, that never happened, right? It was a civil case. And it definitely, it went from like campus press to conservative press to the National Post to being on the evening news where my parents saw it, like it was it was such a strange thing. And the thing that was really weird for me was there was another case of someone like working overtime or like getting a lot of overtime, but not getting their full due that was happening at the same time. And so I'm reading this stuff about me and no one's contacting me for comment. Okay, like 0 people are contacting me for comment, and it's just being published out in the news that I've like stolen this money. And then at the same time, there's like another major case in the city of Toronto of this person who was paid some overtime but wasn't adequately paid for all of their overtime, and like what a tragedy it was that this person had been forced to work like this, and how unfair, and like what should be done to support people. And I was like, wow, life is very, very different for people with different identities. And then, of course, there's the case of what's happened with Black Lives Matter in the United States, which, this is not my story to tell. I do know the story quite well, but I know that, like, it's like it was Washington Free Beacon published a story about one of the founders of BLM, like, owning several houses in LA, and then it goes to the New York Post, and then it becomes big news in mainstream media that she owns all of these houses, and nobody stops to say, like, okay, so it's 3 houses in the city of LA that are pretty close to each other. Like, does that mean that she's like a massive landlord or something? Or is it the case that maybe, just maybe, which is really fucking common, she's just someone who has a lot of good credit in her family? Which is the answer, by the way. Like, and I like, it's just so shocking to me how people are willing to believe this bullshit about people, but also aren't seeing this like this mob, this like which really is like people are likening it to lynch mobs. It is the same sort of idea, like these people like clamoring to see this downfall. And why? Like, what is it about these people who do this work that is seen to be selfless, because it is, and thankless in a lot of ways, and wanting to see those people dragged down?
The thing that gets me the most is when I see it coming from people who are ostensibly on the left, which I have seen in your case, I have seen in my case. And I had this interaction a couple of weeks ago, which it put all of this into like the most direct focus. And so let me kind of read this interaction with you online. And it's between me and someone who exists, who's real, Tom Parkin, who's a strategist for the NDP. And he posted an article about how Avi Lewis is in Montreal to learn French. And I quote tweeted it to say, bold choice to learn French in a neighborhood that is notorious for leaving Anglophones with dépanneur level French skills. Like big deal, right? And so Parkin responds to me saying, have you ever tried to put yourself out for anyone but yourself?
Whoa.
I don't think Parkin's on a crusade to get me to self-harm, but this is the most perfect example of how even people who pretend to be on the left will believe anything about people that they despise or that they don't like. Have I ever done anything to help someone else that's not myself? What a ridiculous question to ask me, and to put that out there on Twitter and for everyone to say, look, even NDP strategists know that Nora is a complete fraud. So she obviously must be. If we're watching this and you're witnessing these kinds of things, you cannot play this game. It is such a dangerous and stupid game. What is the point of an NDP strategist coming after me? You think that I'm going to stop criticizing the NDP and I'm just going to go away and the NDP can continue to suck and never, ever change. And you'll not hear from a Quebecer saying, you know what, going to this neighborhood of Montreal is not going to get you to learn French. You probably need to go to Trois-Rivières or Shawinigan or fucking Chicoutimi. This is what makes me the most angry. Whenever I see anybody comment about you, and reference that stuff at U of T and they pretend to be on the left, it's like, what are you doing? You are engaging in their tactics with their tools, and you will have the same outcome if you're successful. And so this, I think, is a really important plea. You see this happening, don't take the bait, look at the sources, be a little bit critical, look at people's work, right? I don't know what Tom Parkin does, but I'm not going to be pretend that I know that he does nothing. I know that he helps to massage the right wing of the party. That's fine. There's a reason why people to do that. But why would you assume the worst of people whose work you can see? It doesn't make any sense. We live in real life. We're people that have phone numbers. You can pick up the phone and call and ask. And when you see something that's that severe, you have to be critical.
Yeah. If you know, I'm talking to the lefties listening here. If you see something like this and you know the person, call them and try to figure it out rather than opining online, because that, witnessing people that I knew, believe some of the crap about me, witnessing people that I know who know that founder of BLM, believe that stuff against her. When there was also a time during BLM in and around 2016 where a very conservative radio station in Toronto, combed through all of the tweets of the founders of BLM in Toronto and found something that they could use to target someone else. And then that small, right-wing radio station became big news on CP24 and on Global News. And it was watching some people see that, like obvious bullshit, right? It's like, we are talking about the police killing Black people in our community, and you're trying to delegitimize us by pointing to a tweet that was made 10 years ago that said nothing about anything. It's like, you have to use your critical thinking to, one, try to see what's really happening. But if you know the people, pick up the phone and call them. But also, like, really resist, especially if it's about Black people, okay? Resist the knee jerk, like, oh, he must be lying about raising 5 million pounds. Are we like, what? Like, do we believe that, like, raising 5 million pounds in 1 year is not unheard of? Like, in 20 years, we think that this person can't do something like that? I just, it's so, and like, in my case, it was just, the news became Sandy stole $250,000 from the University of Toronto while I was in a graduate program at the University of Toronto. Like, it was just like, could you just look into what these people are doing? Like, is it possible that that's something that could have gone down and me still be at the school studying, like, elected to the governing council? Like, is it possible for all of these things to be true at the same time? Probably not. Then there's something wrong here. And it is, like, absolutely a dereliction of duty of the mainstream press in, like, doing their due diligence when it comes to certain communities and people who are engaged in certain things. And it's like the same level of care that Mark Carney deserves, we deserve too. And even more so because we don't have a public relations office to turn to, who's going to go through and systematically correct all of the issues that are out there. And so it becomes important for all of us in this world that we live in right now to be media literate to a point that we can see when the right is using the media as a tool to destroy left-wing movements, to destroy the way our societies are set up, to benefit and to ameliorate some of the awful ways that oppression exists in our society. We have to know when that's happening and to make sure that we don't get played by this crap.